Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Erin Peña. I'm a professional artist based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And in 2025, I was awarded a grant by the Minnesota State Arts Board to create this series of beadwork tutorials on the basics of the kind of work that I do. So previously we've gone over 4 separate flat shapes, right? We've done the equilateral triangle, the square, the hexagon, and the pentagon. And today we're going to go over a bit of a different shape. Bead weavers commonly call this shape a warped square. I believe in more mathematical parlance, it's some kind of a paraboloid, I believe is the word. But we usually call them warps when we're beading. And this is one of them. And what it is at its core is a square with too much area to lie flat. It can only exist in 3 dimensions. So you can see that each side is the same length, like it would be with a normal square. But you can also see here the green beads that we're doing the same kind of an increase cycle that we would on a triangle, right? 2, 2, 2, every corner, every row. And with a triangle, that gives us just enough area to lie flat, but when we're doing 4 corners instead of 3, that's more area, and it's too much to just lie flat. It's too much area. So it warps up, pokes up into this paraboloid shape. What we see this shape used for most commonly is to make stars, like these guys. You could make them basically with as many points as you want. I mean, the bigger they are, the floppier they get, so the more room you have to add points. When they're this small, they're a little tight, so you probably can't go too much more than 6, maybe 7 points. I usually like to do 6. I just like the way that looks. But let me see if I can show you here. We're going to be going over these patterns in the next one. The next video. For this video, we're just going to learn how to make the basic shape. But just to illustrate, this, see how that works? That's how they get sewn together to make our star. This is a warp for this particular star. I just used 6 warps rather than 5 to make our 6 points. This guy right here is just 2 warps sewn together, so you can see what it looks like as it's being made. And there's some flexibility here, right? Like, you could squish it to add room for more points. To an extent, of course, depending on your tension, which mine is usually pretty tight, so can't always squish that many points in there. That's a quick introduction to this shape, so let's get into beading one of them just so we can see what that looks like. Okay, grab yourself 2 colors of beads. I'm using the same green, but instead of using that blue for the sides, I grabbed the red. I have this issue, you may have noticed by now, where I pick colors that don't necessarily show up as well on camera as they do in real life. So I've decided to use this red instead of the blue, just to make our lives a little easier. Grab a length of thread. You don't need much. This is a small little guy. It's only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. Yeah, it's only 7 rows. Won't take that much. Okay, so for your beginning ring, pick up 4 of your corner bead, and tie them with a square knot, just like if you were starting a square. So pick up your 4 corner color beads, color A, let's say green A, red B, just to make it easier, and tie them in a square knot, just like if you were starting a square. And we'll see how our knot is in between 2 beads. We'll just sew through one of them and scooch our knot in there. There we go. Okay, that's your row 1. Now for row 2, again, working with A corner beads, pick up 2A, as if we were doing a triangle, rather. Try and get them sitting next to each other like that. Do that 3 more times between each of your starting ring. Okay, and on your last one, don't forget to also step up through that first of the row you just placed, of row 2. See, we're going through 2 beads here. Okay. Already you can see it's not really into lying flat, and that's just gonna get more so as we go along. The first couple rows are the hardest because it's floppiest, it's smallest, harder to hold. That's the case for most beadwork. It'll get easier as you go along. All right. Row 3. Pick up 2A beads, 2 corner beads, and just like if it were a triangle, go back down through that second corner bead there. Now, it's really important to make sure you're not skipping beads here, because things are going to get a little squished up and a little harder to see. So pick up 1B and go through that next of your corners like that. And it might be helpful, I often find it is, to sort of hold it along the crease so that it begins to fold up into that sort of taco shape it's going to take. All right, another corner, 2A, pick up a B, come up through your next corner, 2A, and sort of refolding the taco as I go along here for these first couple rows while it's still flexible, just to make it easier for me to see where my needle needs to go. All right, pick up a B, up through, here's our last corner, And again, refolding the taco. Oh, my thread is caught on my mat. Okay. And our last side bead, pick up a B and go through these two here to step up. Okay, and now we've definitely got a warped shape going on. If you were holding your tension tight enough, then you should definitely have a warped shape going on. And at this point, I'll stop refolding as I turn, and I'll just let it be in this shape. So I'll just sort of, pinch it like this. I'll try not to pinch it too tight like that. I'll try and let it have some room in there. But the further you go in beading the shape, the more rigid it will become, the more it will fall into its shape, and you won't really have to work so hard at molding it. Next row, row 4. Coming out of a corner, as always. So we'll pick up 2 A beads again. Be down through our corner here. And this time we're going to add 2B along each side, so 1B. 2B. Just like a triangle, each side increases by 1 bead every row for as long as we're adding increases in the corner. One B, 2B, in the corner now, so 2A. Come here, A. There we go. Get them to lie nicely. There we go. B. B. In the corner again, 2A. All right, now we're on the side, our last side, so B. Another B, and we're stepping up, so remember to go through 2 beads there. Pull tight. Okay. All right, row 5. It's basically the same thing. And you can see how it's getting more rigid, it's getting more defined. It's easier to see where we're going. So we've got 3B along each side here. Two A in the corner. nicely there. There we go. Okay, last side. Getting all twisted up in here. That's no good. There we go. Okay, and just to illustrate, it's really easy to accidentally skip over and only go through one bead for the step up. But just remember, you got to go through two. Otherwise, you're going to throw off your count. And hey, you may want to do that on purpose, but it would be a shame to do it on accident. Okay, so at this point, we're ready to stop increasing. I just want it to be as big as the warp I showed you in the beginning so we can practice joining them together. So, just like with a triangle, when we're ready to stop increasing, we add 1 in the corner instead of 2. So pick up your 1A, and just like so. Then we'll go down. With our bees. Pull it tight. 2, 3, 4. And again. You can kind of see how I'm rotating the piece in my hand as I'm beading on it. That's not just for the camera. It's so that there's a good angle when I'm pulling tight for everything to line up and lock into place. It's hard to say in words. It's one of those tactile things that you just sort of get used to as you bead. But I guess that's just to say, like, totally okay if you're rotating the piece as you're going. Like, that makes total sense and is probably easier for many people than just holding it in one place as you're working along. Okay, last bead. And remember to go through 2 to step up. We're going through the previous row, and we're also going through that 1 in the corner. Okay. Now we're on a no corner row, which is what we're using as our joining row. So this guy already has all of its no corner rows, and 2 of the sides will be shared with this guy, right? So we only need to add 2 no corner sides to this one we're working on. Now, if this had a pattern on it, and if that pattern were asymmetric, it would matter which no corner rows we added and which were already present in the piece we were going to put it on, right? Like these 2 rows here are not the same as those 2 rows there. But if you're symmetrical all the way around, then it doesn't matter. And you don't have to worry about which points are up and which points are down, if that makes sense. Right, let me try and show again. Like, this star shaped like this is not the same as if this star, as if these were the points, right? So that's just something to bear in mind when working with an asymmetric star pattern. But this guy is the same all the way around. We can flip it any which way we want and it doesn't matter. So we're just going to add 2 sides of bee beads here. 5 beads per side. And we're going to treat those 1 beads in the corner, right, those corner beads, the same as if they were a regular old side bead, and we'll just place 1 bee bead on either side of them, right? So coming up to the corner now, just pick up 1 B, go through the A there, scooch it back into place, and then do the same thing over here. Two, 3, 4, 5. Okay, scooch it into place. All right. It might be easier for you to tie your tail off before you join it up to the next shape, and that's the same as ever. There we go. I'm just gonna sew it through a couple beads here. If I can get this needle threaded. Maybe. See, I have to do it that way when I have my tail too short. It's just a chronic habit of mine. And then you can just trim it off right there, which I will do very messily, but just to illustrate. Okay. All right, now we are ready to join up. So like I said, we're going to share 2 sides. So make sure they're facing each other like mirror images, right? Point to point. As opposed to, you know, if this was flipped the other way around, it wouldn't line up. So, right, just make sure we're lining up with which points are up, which points are down. Okay. And when we're zipping together pieces, we're sharing beads, right? So we're just going to pretend that no corner row here are beads we're picking up. So go through this first bead here, then sew it here. I recommend going through a couple beads before you pull tight, because otherwise your warps will probably like spin around and maybe fall out of true. I've done that before. It's just more annoying. So just go through a couple beads and then pull tight. And be careful you're not making knots, like sewing your needle through a loop or like through this loop or anything. A couple more. Okay, through that last no corner bead over there. I'm gonna pull it tight. Okay, and now we're gonna come around to the next side. So we're gonna go through a corner bead here. And then we're gonna continue zipping together. I should pull tight a little more often than that. More bad habits. Okay. Come here. Okay, and then to finish it off, we'll go through this corner bead here. Okay, and then we're ready to tie it off, which is the same as ever. Just going to make our figure 8. 1, 2, 3. Flip it around and come back. Maybe. Sorry, my needle's not cooperating. Oh, there it goes. Okay, trim it close. Okay. And there you go. All right, next time we'll go over probably both of these since they're so short. I'm not gonna make, a whole star of each on camera. I'll just make one more warp of each of these and join them to these existing warps so you can get an idea of what it looks like. But yeah, these are a fun shape. They're very versatile. I'll show you a couple more like little weird things, not stars, that I've made with warps next time. I've been working with them lately. But yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.